Ahead, a long line of vehicles is gridlocked waiting to be interrogated. The crew in the car nervously scan their surroundings, police closing in on their scent. The driver sweats profusely, fearing discovery. A cop circles the car, his attention suddenly caught by the driver's injured right hand. He immediately requests a moment's pause. At this moment, the hacker, observing the entire situation, suddenly notices the police using a special spotlight to inspect the drug transport vehicle. He immediately calls the checkpoint, posing as an FBI agent tracking via satellite, having detected a suspicious vehicle attempting to cross the border into Tijuana. Before he can finish speaking, his accomplice next to the driver slams on the gas, swerving wildly to create a diversion. Thinking his accomplice is posing as a cop, he honks his horn, pretending to be on duty, and rushes to subdue the other man. She acts with extreme professionalism, taking him down and pinning him to the ground to prevent the real police from firing accidentally. The diversion is brilliant, shifting attention from east to west, successfully drawing all the police away. The third man seizes the opportunity to open the gate, allowing the truck to escape. The four coordinate with flawless precision, successfully smuggling $50 million worth of drugs into the country. But they are not a drug cartel, but a special investigation unit established by the FBI. But why are the agents helping criminals transport drugs? Everything must begin a few days prior, in broad daylight, under the guise of justice. A Homeland Security agent is being pursued by criminals. He takes down two burly men and turns to flee. While running, he bolts into a crowded neighborhood nearby, weaving through alleys as intricate as a labyrinth. He grabs an electric scooter parked on the roadside and throws it backward, finally losing his pursuers and emerging onto the main road. But he is suddenly shot down by a sniper from the front. At the same time, at Los Angeles prison, an undercover cop, Mark Meacham, gets into a scuffle with an enemy during his break. The two brawl, dust flying everywhere. It's not until guards rush in to subdue them and drag them away that Sergeant Lambert arrives. Fearing a reprimand, Mark quickly explains he's on the verge of obtaining crucial information. To his surprise, Lambert informs him his assignment is about to end. Mark is stunned as if struck by lightning. He's been stuck in this hellhole for 9 months. How could they just pull him out? Lambert cuts off his lament, explaining he's been transferred to a federal special operations unit. Pack your bags and head back to Los Angeles immediately. It turns out, after the security agent was murdered in the street, superiors immediately convened a covert team of undercover agents from various units, forming a top-secret special investigation unit. Besides Mark, another DIA agent, named Oliver, undercover in Koreatown, also receives orders from above. But just minutes before she was dangling from a car, luckily a janitor passed by and saw her. Another operative, Oliver, is undercover in Koreatown and has also received orders from his superiors. But just minutes ago you were dangling far from home, luckily a cleaner passed by and saw you. Pity. The janitor placed a metal bin next to Oliver and she stepped on it to untie the ropes binding her hands. Then she used a hockey stick to take down the two guard dogs, finally making contact with her superiors. Not long after all the selected agents had gathered, the captain of the special operations team, Nathan, stood at the front giving a speech. He had worked for the FBI for 22 years, leading 5 different special investigation teams. Those summoned today are the best elites from each unit. First is Damon Dill, wearing a semi-gear from the Intelligence Analysis Office of the Department of Homeland Security, Nathan's right-hand man. Next is Oliver, with 14 years of extensive experience, having gone undercover multiple times in critical operations. Then there's Agent Ivan from the FBI, who knows domestic and international terrorist threats like the back of his hand. To Ivan's left is Agent Wen from the Interagency Bureau, skilled in cyber investigations, specializing in digital fraud and computer attacks. The tall man in the back is Luke from the Los Angeles Police Department. He has 18 years of experience in the Gang and Narcotics Division, adept at analyzing the connections between firearms gangs and drug trafficking. And finally, our protagonist, Mark, from the Major Crimes Unit of the Los Angeles Police Department. He had the chance to work with Nathan once before. The introduction of the special team members concludes here. Now it's time to clarify the specific mission. According to confirmed information, at 8:31 a.m. yesterday, Agent Zutton of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection was shot in the heart in Culiacan and died at the scene. Nearby stores and the ATM across the street had security cameras, but none captured a clear image of the perpetrator. We can only rely on witness accounts to sketch a profile. The suspect is a black male, about 1.80 meters tall and armed. An ordinary agent being murdered wouldn't warrant forming a special task force, but 14 days ago Zutton's account suddenly received a deposit of $200,000. Nathan's team tried to trace the bank transfer but found all related data was concealed. Previously, Zutton's work at Customs and Border Protection involved monitoring the activities of the New King Gang in the Tizuna border region and operations at the port of Long Beach. Oliver immediately recognized the name New King. It's an organization formed in 2009 from the remnants of the dissolved Lote Manta Gang. They reorganized and became active again, specializing in contract killings and protection rackets. Their primary targets are journalists, politicians, and police officers. In summary, this case is shrouded in mystery. Therefore, the entire operation must be kept absolutely secret from family and colleagues. They must investigate in the shortest possible time, find out why Zudin was murdered and why he received that money. Could this be related to his work at Customs and Border Protection? Does this have anything to do with his work at Customs and Border Protection? After the meeting, Mac, bored and idle, struck up a conversation with Oliver, but he had no idea he was already famous. Oliver had heard of this guy before, the one who dumped Melinda just 2 weeks before her wedding and then slept with her sister Zeicher. Look, I just want to tell you one thing, okay? At 2:30 in the morning, Zeicher really looked like her sister. Oh my god, you can't be serious. Nathan called Van to go see Zudin's wife to see if she knew anything about the bribery or not. When the two arrived at Zudin's house, they found Zudin's brother-in-law also present. Zudin's wife stated frankly, my husband would never be involved in illegal activities. She was very emotional and warned that if Nathan continued to slander Zudin, we would sue you. Her 9-year-old son, hearing his mother's anger, could only bury his face in his pillow and cry. Seeing this, the brother-in-law unceremoniously kicked both of them out. Meanwhile, the other 4 people went to where Zudin used to work, planning to question some of his colleagues. Through conversations, they learned that Zudin was well liked by everyone and always serious about his work. He also had an informant network at both the border and the seaport. Almost all information about the New King organization was discovered by Zudin. Every time he went on a mission, he wrote detailed reports. Only an old man named Zim believed that Zudin would eventually run into trouble. According to his colleagues, Zim and Zudin often went on missions together. Zim even stayed at Zudin's vacation home for several weekends. The two often went fishing, snowshoeing, and other outdoor activities. As for the unexplained money in Zudin's personal account, it was transferred from the Guadalajara bank, which had direct ties to the New King territory. A male colleague suggested that if Zudin really took dirty money, he would never use such a suspicious bank. After leaving the security department, the group agreed that Zim needed further investigation. In addition, the analyst continued to review the shooting footage. She scrutinized it repeatedly and discovered a truck with mirrors at the scene. If synchronized with the image from the nearby ATM, the perpetrator's face could be clearly seen reflected in the mirror. She immediately accessed the entire national database of the United States to search for facial recognition images. Finally, the suspect was identified as Cesar Murillo. The group quickly headed to Han's residence. Mac led a team to approach from the front door, while Oliver and Ivan circled around to the back door for support. As Mac kicked the door, gunshots rang out from inside. He yelled, "I've been shot. The officer is seriously wounded." Then, peering through the peephole, as soon as they saw someone approaching, they immediately kicked the door open. The people inside panicked and fled out the back door, but were immediately apprehended by Oliver and Ivan. However, the ones caught were not Cesar, but a girl with frizzy hair and a man with a tattoo on his neck. Both apprehended individuals remained tight-lipped, not uttering a single word. Oliver had heard that if the New King's men were discovered, they'd be stuffed into a barrel of live garlic until they died. So these guys weren't going to crack. The agents did get fingerprints from the apartment, but they were months old. Hacker Van had run down all of Zudin's assets, and there was no indication that he and his wife, besides the house in Belmont High, owned any other vacation homes or properties. Nathan reviewed the interrogation notes from when the 4 of them had visited Zudin's colleague earlier. One of the male employees, Mao Zai, had mentioned the Gazani Bank in Guadalajara. But the problem was this information wasn't public, so unless Zudin had told him directly, how would Mao Zai know which bank it was? Hearing this, Mark immediately went to Mao Zai's house and upon arrival found him preparing to flee. Mark and Oliver immediately gave chase and intercepted Mao Zai on the road. He even tried to ditch his car and run, but he clearly didn't know who he was dealing with. Finally, Mao Zai was escorted to FBI headquarters for Mark and Oliver to interrogate. It only took them a short while to get the information. Mao Zai admitted that the vacation home story was fabricated to make the police focus their investigation on Zim. "We know you took a bribe and your fingerprints were on his keyboard. You blamed Zudin because you knew he'd discovered your shady dealings. Then we followed the trail and found your sister's bank statements." "Where? Indio?" "That's right, which makes her a federal accomplice and facing 15 years in Victor Weiss Penitentiary." What? To protect his sister, Mao Zai quickly confessed the drug cartel was trying to create an opportunity to force Customs and Homeland Security to clear out a facility so they could make their transaction without interference. And it was because Zudin discovered Mao Zai had been bought off that he was killed by the New King's assassin. Although Mao Zai claimed he didn't know the time, place, or content of the transaction. In his car, the team found a burner phone and a work phone. Nathan then assigned Ivan to analyze the computer and send the decryption team to trace Mao Zai contacts and call history. Afterward, Nathan and Van returned to Zudin's house to inform his family that Zudin was a hero who had bravely stood up to the drug cartel. That evening, Oliver began reviewing the files of the Special Task Force members. She intended to learn more about her new colleagues in the intelligence office, meaning she wanted to understand the people she'd be working with better. Unexpectedly, she discovered that the 9-year-old son of assistant the deal had died in a drunk Driving accident. Just then a woman who looked very familiar walked by, preventing Oliver from finishing Mark's file. She immediately shut down her computer and chased after the woman, completely unaware that a tumor was growing inside Mark. Nor did she know that Dia's former superior had met with Nathan to report that Oliver was suspected of drug use while undercover. The people Nathan assembled were indeed excellent, but undeniably they were all on the fringes of society. They would stop at nothing to seize this one chance at success. Back to the main story. The decoded data from the phone arrived showing Mao Zai lied about not being able to arrange a time. But in reality he had secretly ordered all Customs and Border Patrol forces to stay away from Pier 31. The team immediately rushed to the scene and clashed directly with the drug traffickers. But due to the chaos, a few criminals took the opportunity to escape by car. At the same time, the long-range sniper who had shot Chesutin suddenly approached Oliver, who was hiding behind a statue. Fortunately, Marketer shot and killed him. Everyone then entered the warehouse on the pier to inspect it, but Ivan suddenly ordered everyone to retreat, then took out a radiation detector from the car. On it, the radiation levels were jumping wildly. Ivan confirmed that the warehouse contained gamma-emitting devices which were being exposed to radiation levels of 5,000 millisieverts, a type of fissile material that had been lost. And if activated in Los Angeles, it could cause a nuclear disaster equivalent to Chernobyl. In other words, someone was using the drug trafficking network to smuggle fissile material into the United States. In last night's raid, they had arrested 2 members of the New King Gang. Once the port police officially approved, they would receive the full interrogation reports. Mark had also spoken with the Economic Crimes Unit, who discovered a Border Patrol vehicle stolen about 14 kilometers northeast of Port City. Nathan clearly remembered seeing the car fleeing yesterday and vaguely recalled there were 4 Caucasians inside. Now all the special task force could do was review all the footage at the port from the days leading up to the incident, cross-reference the lists of all logistics, transportation and customs. But just then luck struck. His 9 months undercover in prison were up and he still bore the stamp of Palm Valley Penitentiary. Even a fingerprint check only brought up a fake identity the police had created for his undercover work. Seeing this, Lopez lowered his gun. Oliver quickly explained that Shed been double-crossed in a deal in Michigan and was desperate for cash. Shed heard Lopez was being watched and sought him out, willing to take on high-risk deliveries. The offer was clearly tempting to Lopez. He decided to let Oliver make a test run to see if they were truly trustworthy. Had just moved a shipment of contraband from Zosa Zito, but with the current situation in the New King's territory, Lopez feared the truck would get stuck at the border. If Oliver could handle it, had let her join the operation. But this wouldn't be easy. Using connections to get Border Patrol to wave the truck through would surely arouse Lopez suspicion, because the dwarf had used Border Patrol's own internal account to check Mark's fingerprints the day before. This meant someone inside the police had been compromised, so they couldn't risk asking for their help. The group had to act like real smugglers, getting the goods through the checkpoint themselves. Luke and Mark drove an empty truck while Guy Trang drove a pig truck, claiming they were going to Mexico to trade pork. Oliver and Ivan also drove a car across the border into Mexico. They met at a stinking pig farm on the outskirts to transfer the crates the smugglers had prepared. Then they swapped the license plates to avoid identification. While attaching the crates to the truck, Luke accidentally cut his palm. He quickly wrapped it with his shirt. The group drove towards a gas station to prepare. A Zosie police officer in a patrol car approached. Oliver had met this corrupt cop during her undercover work and knew his weakness for bribes. So she slipped him a lollipop laced with cash. Then she calmly drove off in his car. Oliver followed the truck and the group headed straight for the checkpoint below. A long line of vehicles was backed up waiting for inspection. The police quickly reached the group's truck. Luke was so tense he was sweating, but he managed to stay calm and answer the officer's questions. Unexpectedly, the officer noticed his injured right hand and asked him to pull over for further inspection. At the command center, Hacker Van was monitoring everything. She spotted the police using a special light scanner on Luke's truck. Mark realized things were getting dicey. It was time to create some drama. Natha received a signal from Mark and immediately called the checkpoint, posing as an FBI agent, reporting that federal satellites had detected a suspicious vehicle attempting to cross the border. At Kazuna, the license plate is FDX 542, the very car Mark is driving. Mark leaned floors at driving recklessly to create a diversion. Meanwhile, Oliver puts on a fake police siren and races to the scene, pretending to apprehend the suspect. She executes a beautiful move, taking him down and subduing him on the spot to prevent other officers from losing their cool and shooting the suspect dead. Her brilliant diversion completely throws all the police off guard. Ivan seizes the opportunity to open the gate for the truck to pass, then quickly returns to retrieve the documents and escort Mark out of the holding cell. The group drives the truck to a safe location and opens the cargo hold to inspect its contents. Inside are sacks of animal feed emitting a strong pungent odor. Upon cutting open the feed sacks, they discover packages of tightly wrapped drugs. Each sack contains about 6 to 7 bundles of contraband. Roughly estimated, this entire truckload is worth about $50 million on the black market. But now they are forced to hand over this shipment to Lopez in order to delve deeper into the investigation of the fissile material. Oliver understands that to catch the fox sometimes you have to sacrifice a tasty bait. But the thought of this large quantity of drugs flooding the streets sends a chill down her spine. Being a police officer sometimes means facing such dilemmas. Ma completely understands Oliver's feelings at that moment. That night the two drive the truck to the rendezvous point for the handover. However, Oliver secretly keeps 1 kilogram of drugs, believing that if just 1 kilogram is missing, perhaps one less child will die from an overdose on the streets. That would be doing a good deed. Oliver intends to throw the drugs into the river to destroy them. Ma watches her hide the package without a word but clearly doesn't believe her. Afterward they both deliver the shipment to Lopez while also trying to extract more information. We heard the new king is working with high-level dealers from China or Europe. I want a piece of such a big deal. Lopez reacts immediately. I don't know anything about the Chinese, but our boss is from a Russian-speaking country. Oliver is about to ask more, but suddenly the car in front explodes violently. Lopez is hit by shrapnel, critically wounded on the spot. He has only a few seconds left to live, and in his dying moments, Lopez manages to whisper the name of the person behind it all. Von Carr. The story flashes back to 2008 in Minka, the capital of Bellagio. Anton, the younger brother of a Ministry of Defense employee named Bozit, suddenly appears at his doorstep covered in blood. An American came looking for me, Anton says. He works for Hazard, a large American food corporation. The American wants to buy the real data on Bellagio's agricultural output and the stability index of the latest harvest. Anton took the money but had no intention of providing the real data. He printed statistics from 2005 and sent them to America, but the American discovered it immediately. He even demanded to meet Bozit in person. Not long after, the two brothers meet the American named Dennis. Han Viet Bozit La Noi Dang Lam Trong Bo Quoc Phong Doi Kien Kotenko. The Lahan Ra Du Kien Phi Gao Ra Ton Bo Email Jua Kostenko Va Kremlin Trong Suet For Thang Gon. Day. Lam Ve Ti Mon No Kua Anton Se Duok Zoa Sak. Con Noi Kong Rat Ko the M Trian Se Truat Chan Te Koi Diong Kao Thang De Ku M Bozit Buok. Phi Ra Te. Ki Zep Kua An Kotenko Roy Van Fong Bozit Lang La Bat Mei Tin Len Va Nha Chong Sao Shape Tone. Bo Email Trong Du. Ki Ve Den Na Anton Lin Tuk Noi Loi Shin Loi Vi Da Loi An Tri Vao Choyan Gai Him the Ne. Noi Zong Han Di Vao Fong Tam De Rua Mat Nung Doi Mai Van Kong Thay Anton Buok Ra. Bozit Mo Kua Ti Thay M Tri Min Da Chet Tu Luk Now. Toi Hom Du Ki Dennis Tro Ve Kan Ho Kua Min Han Bat Go Thay Bozit Dang Tu Trong To Na Buok Ra. Bozit Dua Cho Han Mo Chia Ko Kung Va Lan Lung Gun Bao Cam Kai Ne Roy Biendi Dung Bao Gio Shuat. Heen Truok Mat Toi Nua. Dennis Lap Tuk She Vao Fong Mo Mei Kiem Tra Email Roy Bat Mei Nun Bon Mi Chuan Bai Bua Toi. Kong Go Chiek Mei Fat No Nga Y Ki Bua Koi Dong. Ingon Lua Bung Len Sang Ruk Fan Ju Kon Mat Bozit Trong En Lua. Vei Ko Ki Now Bozit Chin La K Dung Sao Man Von Ket. Ki Tro Lai Thoi Diem Heen Tai Lopez Kung Dam Dan M Kua Han Du Da Chet Trong Vu No Toi Qua. Thiet Bai No La Loi Thuok No C4 Diu Chuan Quan Doi. No Duok Gon Vao Kong Tak Dan Lua Kua Chiak Range Rover Ma Lopez Su Dung. Hacker Van Tra Lai So Sua Z Kua Lopez Tai Gara. Dam Buan Ma Toi Lak Hao Ne Chong Dung Mei Tin Ton Bo Kai Ghi Shape Bang Te Tren So Zay. Y Ra Ko Con Tim Thay Kai Ten Bon Ket Mo Ho Ko Nguyen Gok Tu Tieng Balaj. Tu Sao Ki Lin Zo Tan Da Nam 1989 Balaj Da Tro Ton Mo Chu Hao Thuk Su Kua Na. Ho Kong Kai Ung Ho Kak Han Dong Gay Han Gon Day Tai Dong O Kian My Va Kak Dong Min Nato Phi. Len Tieng Kai Trich Man Mi. Ma Bong No Lai Thoi Jian Nam Vong O Palm Valley Ko Mo Tu Nyan Trung Bong Ten La Timanovic. Thoi Goi Don Jian La Timu Di Choda No Va Ga Timu Ne Den Tu Minka. Ga Ne Ko Lin He Voi To Chuk Gam Noi Balaj Tai Los Angeles Va Rat Dan Kak Duong De Quap Bak. Buan Ma Toi Vu Ki. Noi Vu and Ne Ko Din Lu Den I Du Gok Na Ti Timu Rat Ko The Biat La I. Vive Mark Cho Rang Min Phi Ki Lai Na Tu Mo Choyan. Nung Oliver Ti Cho Rang Nu Ve Qua Gai Him. V Tu Nyan Chong Bao Gio Tin Choyan Bai Choyan She La Tin Ko Ka Mark Ma Ki Lai Ti The Now Kung. Bai Gi Go. Nung An Ti Da Quay Nathan Kung Lap Tu Kvat Te Vao Sap Zep. Kong Go K Hoch Ne Lai Bai Giam Dok Na Tu Fan Doi Du Doi. Ton Cha Micham Tung Lam Nam Vong O Pom Valley Va Du La Nine Thang Toi Tanyat Trong Su Niep Kua. Toi. Nung Noi Ta Kong Can Micham That Su Phi Val Lai Pom Valley Ti Sao. Shoyan Gun Toi Na Tu Pom Valley Timu Dang Chan Gon Ti Bat Go Bai Goi Ten. Han duok bao la ko lat su yu kao tham du fien du tran kangen. Timu bai choyen den full zeta gap tham fan. Han mo ho chua hu choyen gi ti da bai ap gi len z 2. Va nok nien ki thay Mark kung nagoi trong z. During his previous stint in prison, Mark once saved Timu from a dangerous brawl. But this younger brother still didn't fully trust Mark. You were transferred to the High Desert State Penitentiary, weren't you? Yeah, that's right. I heard the stadium there is packed. What are you talking about? There's no stadium there. Fortunately, Mark didn't fall for the trap and the two sat chatting idly in the car. At this moment, seeing that the time was ripe, he activated a special device. Immediately after the escort vehicle exploded, the car lost control and crashed straight into the roadside barrier. Timu immediately realized this was his chance to escape, and he glanced at Mark, signaling him. When Oliver and the disguised escort personnel rushed to check, Mark immediately subdued the two. To make the act more convincing, he even fired a shot right next to Luke's head. Then the two quickly handcuffed the escort police and left them in the car. Then drove straight to a small alley in Van Nuys. Mark led Timu into a rest stop where they managed to get 2 work uniforms and change. Timu was still excited after the spectacular prison break, boasting as he changed. I have a very powerful uncle who can help us leave the country immediately. But first we need to get a phone to contact him. Just then the chatter of workers could be heard from outside, and the two decided to leave their hiding place. They entered a corner cafe, targeting the phone of a man working there. Mark approached the counter, pointed at the coffee cup, and asked the busy man, "Excuse me, is this coffee yours?" The man stood up to check, and Mark pretended to spill coffee on him. While he was distracted, Timu quickly snatched the phone from the table, completely unaware to the man. The man whose phone was taken went to the restroom to clean his wet clothes. Mark quietly followed and broke the doorknob, temporarily locking him inside the restroom. Outside, Timu had managed to contact a distant relative. They arranged to meet in a nearby neighborhood. To avoid being tracked, Mark pretended to open a trash can lid and throw the phone in, but actually slipped it into his pocket. Meanwhile, Luke and Oliver had already escaped. Luke was still furious about the shot that had grazed his head earlier. Today was Luke's 40th birthday, yet Sid was shot by Mark. The two immediately returned to the Special Task Force headquarters to report to Nathan. They said Mark would contact them as soon as he had information. Just then the district attorney of Van Verde appeared. He had just been informed of Nathan's plan by the prison director and had come in person to question him. But Nathan was not to be outdone, responding with extreme toughness, "I don't care who you are, you have no right to question me here. I don't need anyone to teach me how to investigate." Hearing this, the prosecutor became even more enraged. He criticized Nathan for letting a criminal run loose, severely endangering public safety. But the deal's assistant exploded upon hearing that. The truth is, this prosecutor had come here countless times, even demanding to join the Special Task Force's investigation multiple times. The deal knew full well the political games of such people. Prosecutors don't genuinely fight for justice. They just want to get involved to claim credit and fame during their gubernatorial campaigns. But for us, this isn't about politics. This is the sole objective we're focused on accomplishing. So please take your grandstanding elsewhere. The prosecutor, thoroughly chastised and unable to lift his head, uttered a parting remark. "You'll see," and then left. Night fell, but there was still no news from the contact. At this moment, he was sitting in Timus' relative's car, listening to the two people in the front seats arguing fiercely. They were speaking Russian and Mark couldn't understand much. When they finally stopped arguing, Mark turned to ask Timu, "What's going on?" "You said you'd take me to see your uncle." Timu replied, "My uncle is Mikhail. He owns a traditional Belazog bar in Buban. The bar is currently undergoing renovations, but we'll head there right now." A moment later, they arrived at the Belazog bar. But unfortunately, the uncle wasn't keen on helping Timu. While the uncle and nephew were arguing, Mark excused himself to use the restroom. He thoroughly checked all the stalls, ensuring no one was there before pulling out his phone to contact Oliver. In his haste, Mark couldn't explain at length, only saying briefly, "I've stolen a phone. Quickly tell the hacker to trace this device's location." With that, he stomped hard on the flush lever and hung up. Oliver immediately reported back to Nathan. "Did he directly request assistance?" "No. So what's your plan? Follow him closely or let him handle it himself." When Mark left the restroom, the two guys were still arguing outside the door. Seeing this, he seized the opportunity to sneak into the backstage area to scout. Mark searched the staff room thoroughly but found nothing. He cautiously pushed open the door to a room located quite deep inside. To his surprise, the walls were plastered with a map of the port of Los Angeles along with numerous